again today with the Cryptos Paranormal. As you can see by the image on the screen, this is a map. Not just any map, it is the Mogollon, Skinwalker, and Wendigo map of Arizona. These are the cited areas where people have seen them, and it's a long story of how we came to this point in our state. Basically, since since we've landed on Plymouth Rock, we have been hearing stories of all kinds of creatures in the area, just wild things, and we have this history, and it's an interesting history. But I'm going to start with what we have here first on the line here, the Mogollon. It's basically Bigfoot. There's there's a lot of different things between the two, different. Basically, like the main difference is their chest and stomach. Most Mogollon, the chest and stomach is bare. It's like a gorilla. There's no fur there. There's no hair there. Sometimes there's a patch in the center of the chest. It's really weird. The oldest recorded sighting of one is 1903. That was the first recorded sighting. It was a news thing. It was really weird at the time, but I mean, if the oldest recorded far back as 1903, I mean, people like, well, that Patterson footage of the Bigfoot walking, that was the first one. It's like, no, that's far from the truth. I mean, there are recording, images and photos and all kinds of stuff going back hundreds of years. I mean, it goes back to before cameras were even invented. You've got people in caves doing drawings of these creatures, stories and tales, going back centuries. They walk upright. They're bipedal, just like Bigfoot. They range between 7 and 12 feet tall. Big red eyes. Some of them, some of the recordings, people say that like their eyes glow when you hit them with a light, so they have that reflectiveness to it. But it's either like a red glow, off in the distance, or you have that yellowish white, like when you shine lights at like people's faces. It's a similar thing. Hair-wise, similar again as Bigfoot, black or reddish brown. Sometimes you get people describing it like there's patches of moss growing off of them, or it's like a greenish hue to it, like they've been rolling in the grass. And this all lends to them not being seen, and like you can be looking at a whole bunch of trees and one's standing there perfectly still next to the trees, and it looks just like a tree because it's all brown and mossy, and you can't really tell. You're looking at the red areas here. This area here, you've got the Grand Canyon, and then you have what's going on down here. Like, this is all mountain range areas where there's vegetation, tall vegetation, short vegetation, a lot of dips in the ground, any kind of washes that they can walk through and go through and get. I mean, this is all areas where there is a lot of animals that they can feed off of. There's a lot of plant life that they can feed off of. The rainy months and then even the dry months, there's still places to get water in all these places. The scents You know, same thing with Sasquatch. People talk about, oh man, it's a smell of a skunk. It's it, it really stinks. It smells like decay. And I mean, even when you have like the skunk ape of Florida and those marshy areas, they talk about it stinking like a skunk, and that's how you can tell. And with these, they talk about how it smells of dead fish or decaying peat moss. And I don't know if you've ever been to like a garden center. Peat moss has a very earthy smell to it. It it's a mix of like wet mud and grass clippings and old rotted food. Like if you've ever opened up a trash can after like a night, you cook a whole bunch of vegetables, and then the next morning those vegetables have kind of like congealed in the bottom of the garbage can, and that's the like times that by 100, and that's the smell that they describe. It You've got all this, like if you're covered in moss and stuff, and the moss is kind of like mixing with your own body odor and your sweat and your hair and your grime, and you're playing out in the woods and everything, you get that smell on you, and it just gets worse and worse because that moss, it's living. Moss soaks up moisture, so if it's on your body, it's going to soak up your sweat and stuff, and it's going to live off of that, and that's what it's going to be, putting out there, stench wise. Blood curdling screams, tree knocks. They could be either low and erratic, like hoots and growls, to the sound of like a high pitched woman scream in distress, like they need help. It's a wide range, and what they describe is like it's from the diaphragm, and they're just trying to call out to something, and then they have these loud screams in response, like I heard you. The tree knocking is another thing. Like they there's a lot of dead brush, dead trees, shrubs, and around a lot of Arizona, people think, well, there's no trees out there. It's just all desert. It's like, no, all this area here, this is all trees and stuff. You go to the Coconino Forest, and the trees are 150 feet tall, and about as big around as a 55-gallon drum. They're massive. We can have tree knocks in Arizona, and it's funny because you see all these investigators, and they go to like Colorado and Utah and Oregon and stuff, and they even go to Washington, but we don't get investigators to do Bigfoot stuff here in Arizona. I mean, even then, I think I've only seen maybe one or two that's come to Arizona, and I mean it's interesting. There's the tribes at the Grand Canyon, all through Navajo and Apache and all those areas, and they have stories, they have cave drawings, they have petroglyphs of these creatures and tales of these creatures going back 600 years and more. So that it's not something like new that just popped up in like the 60s or 70s. This stuff is years and centuries old. Now let's move on to skinwalkers here, the blue. Roughly the same area. This is why I made that post about Bigfoot being confused with the skinwalkers in Wendigo in Arizona. I mean, they have similar areas. Skinwalkers, oldest recorded sighting in Arizona is 1864. it was, and by recorded I don't mean somebody with a camera or taking photos. It's on record as a sighting in a journal written by travelers, and basically it's it all these people traveled. We had all kinds of people coming and going, the gold rushes and all this stuff. Skinwalkers, you're basically talking about a witch. A skinwalker is somebody that can turn themselves or disguise themselves as animals, and they they kill people and they lead people away. They're dangerous. They can possess a living being. Like if they are out there and they're just staring you in the eyes, they can possess your body. They can possess animals by looking into the animals, and they lock eyes with the animal, and they can even control animals and people. Like you've seen like the videos and the movies and the TV shows where the spirit leaves the body and it guides through and it takes over somebody's body and then walks as them, and for a while. Basically, the Skinwalker. Ooh, good reference. Ghosts of Mars. If you've ever seen the movie Ghosts of Mars, it's the same principle. Their spirit can leave their body and possess another, and that's how they get around, and that's one of the ways they can sneak in. They can possess animals and people in that same manner. They have these long, deformed hands and claws, like their fingers are really long with big, thick, nasty claws on them. They steal faces and voices to lure their victims out and into areas to basically eat them and kill them and take over their bodies. What I'm saying is, like, say you're in your house and your significant other leaves the room and goes to like bed or something, but then you hear outside their voice, and then you look out the window and you can see like their face in the darkness, and they're calling you out, come here, help me. And then you go out there and they lure you further and further away from the house, and then you're attacked, and they claw at you and just rip you apart, and they steal your skin. That's what the Skinwalker's about. And they have this ability to run silently through any kind of brush and undergrowth or anything like that. They're like they're like witch ninjas. They can run through all this undergrowth and not make a sound. So it's like you can hear them in one point, and then all of a sudden you hear them at another point, and it's because they ran from here to here without making a sound. That's one thing that we have here that people worry about in some of these areas. And you see the same similar areas with the colors here. You got the red and the blue here. It's similar areas, similar wooded areas. They're out in the thick of it. And then now we're gonna kind of change it up a little bit with the Wendigo, where way up there at the top corner you see that's the only place that's different, because the Wendigo is like basically the Wendigo, it attacked Native Americans, and these are highly Native American areas that are highlighted here, So that's where they get a lot of the stories from. The oldest story, written story, is from 1899. That was a story by French mercenaries, or missionaries. I mean, mercenaries, yeah. But they told stories that were, you know, uh, they they said, well, yeah, we went to these areas and we were helping these people, and these creatures were attacking, and we had to, defend ourselves, and so on and so forth. And that was the oldest written story of it back then. But same thing with skinwalkers in the Mogollon is there's Native American tales and stories and even cave drawings of this creature, and there's all this history about it that leads back even further beyond the 1890s and beyond the 1600s. I mean, it goes back centuries. They basically have a head like a deer or elk or some kind of antlered creature, and their mouth is at the same point as the end of the skull, so they look creepy and nasty, and they're skinny and just they talk about their skin being dark or leathery, but then it's cracked, and it's got like moss and stuff growing out of it, so they kind of blend in with trees, and but up in that upper corner, a lot of them are described as very tan, leathery creatures with very sandpapery type skin, and it's like that fits with the native vegetation and the area of growth. So they like blend to their own communities and areas. God dang, itchy nose. I've been dealing with it all day. They're an animal of cannibalism, and the stories that they tell are they're witches, or not witches, but creatures born out of necessity. Basically, people became so hungry, they became animalistic and began eating other people, and as they ate other people, they lost their humanity. When you hear the story of Hansel and Gretel and the witch is fattening up the kids so that she can eat them later. And that's the same thing that the Wendigo does. And if you really think about it, the story of Hansel and Gretel comes about right around the same time as these stories were being told and passed around the world of this creature. And it's the same thing. Hansel and Gretel, they're going through the woods, and it becomes very cold out, and they're trying to find a way, all the food that he did breadcrumbs, and then they lost the breadcrumbs, so they didn't have food. So they come across a house, and they get brought into the house by this witch, and she fattens them up and then eats them, or tries to eat them over a period of time. That's what the Wendigo does. It captures you, it feeds you, and then it eats you, because it gives you what it has so that it can take all of you. And the stories are that it eats you over a winter. So during the months that this is active is, the summer and fall, and then during winter is when it eats the victims. They stand between 9 to 15 feet tall. They're emaciated, so they're real skinny and slender, which matches with the trees. They have that moss and insects crawling on them. The ones that are in the desert areas in the upper north there, they talk about it being covered in like scorpions and other insects of that area, and they have like the flowers from the local cacti that are perched on their skin in different areas. Same thing as other ones is they send out grunts and screams, and they howl, and it's similar. Like all of these things have similar features and stories as Bigfoot. Now, the only thing about the thing Wendigo is it has antlers, but not all stories of the Wendigo have antlers. Some of them have a different look to them. Let's see if I got the stuff up here. Yeah, this is a photo of my property. That red circle there, that is where I saw a creature standing over the RV, and the creature looked like Bigfoot. And I'm thinking it's probably Mogollon. I posted the sounds that I've caught from there on video and everything, so people have seen it. People have heard the stories. This is one of the designs or renditions of the Skinwalker. This is the Chupacabra. This is another rendition of Chupacabra. Here is an image that is supposed to represent a Wendigo. Dry skin, real earthy, antler type growth. Another Chupacabra. Here's another Wendigo design. All these images are based off of like big gatherings of information that people have, and then it gets put into AI, and AI comes up with something, and people go, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, you could imagine, you're walking through the forest in the dark, and something like this is just leaning against a tree. I mean, you wouldn't immediately be able to tell what it is, or if it was anything at all other than a tree. Just the same as this. Exact same idea. This has that lighter tone, so this is something that would have been put out in the northern areas. Chupacabra again. I mean, creepy little bastard. This is Skinwalker. The wolf head, wolf feet. Many people describe this as what it can look like and turn into. It'll steal a dog's face. It'll steal a coyote's face. They have the feet of an animal, so that you can't really track them as a human would track a human. You have to track it as an animal, because that is what it's portraying itself as. Another portrayal or image of a Skinwalker. This one here, people described it as a lizard, some kind of beast with reptile features. Same glowing eyes. I mean, there are a lot out there. There's different images, different descriptions, but they all can be put into one column for each thing. And this is one of the things that I like to look at is I look through different things, and I categorize each item, and then I look at their similarities and where they like to habitate, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. You have these creatures that live in the same area. But we don't get a lot of these investigations in Arizona, and it's interesting because we have just as many sightings, we have just as many uh, uh, reports and stories. It's just people prefer to do Arizona as just a ghostly thing, like, oh, go down to Tombstone, oh, go to Jerome, go to Flagstaff, and go to these haunted locations. But it's like we have cryptids throughout Arizona that are very, very widely known, but people don't want to investigate, and it's sad. It's like I love investigating. I love getting out there and seeing what's going on. Now, this is one thing that I hope to do more investigating on later on and seeing where it goes. But as for now, this is me signing off. See you all later. Have a great day.